And we're back. Neil, how you doing? Have you been busy this week?
Yes, I've been busy with my rants, what grinds my gears.
What gets your goat, as you called them.
Yeah. I didn't want to copy. I didn't want to copy that, so I called it what gets my goat. But yeah, crunch time coming with Brexit, so I've been busy with that. But
these are 2-camera rants, which you put on Reason Now, of course.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun. I'm just trying to...
And they're doing really well. I mean, they seem to just overnight to get thousands of people looking at them and sharing them, so well done there.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy how they're going. And it is a crunch time, so people need to be aware of what's going on.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, as we will see today from the show that we've got planned.
But I see I've been checking your Instagram for your other channel, Evolution Soup.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed the creationists have found you.
Oh, yeah, you noticed. Well, when I started Evolution Soup, this was back in March of this year, I didn't know how well it was going to do. I wanted to do an Instagram which supported evolution. And it's now, the last count was 2,293 followers, which is amazing. And I thought, oh, it's so nice, Instagram. It's not like Facebook. You know, I'm not going to get creationist trolls telling me that, I should go suck an egg. But no, they found me.
Yeah.
If you look in some of the comments underneath, they will make really off-base comments about what I've posted and basically getting the science wrong.
Yeah.
But usually somebody comes to my rescue and posts like, excuse me, you honestly do not understand evolution.
But if you're interested in evolution, head across Evolution Soup on Instagram. Some great pictures, just all about evolution.
Yeah, sometimes it's just artwork that people have done of Paleolithic man. Other than that, I've got pictures of different skulls, of different hominids, all kinds of things. And people seem to be eating it up, which is great, because I think it's something that needs to be championed. Okay, so we're going to go straight into a story which most people have been hearing about. It's all over the news. And this comes from Independent Co. UK. American adventure tourist killed by remote tribe after visiting India's protected North Sentinel Island. An American man who visited the remote Andaman Island has been killed by its isolated community of bow and arrow wielding hunter-gatherers, Indian police said. Travel for any purpose to North Sentinel Island is banned, both to protect its inhabitants and because they have been known to attack outsiders in the past, and that's important. Indian media reported that Mr. Chow, this is the missionary that went there, had been found dead by the fishermen, but police were still in the process of recovering the body. Sources say that Mr. Chow had been to the Andamans 5 times in the past and wanted to meet the Sentinalese to preach Christianity. So, this is a really big story at the moment, Neil. I know you've been looking into it, but also other people who have been looking into it, of course, are the religious, especially the evangelical Christians, who seem to think this is some sort of fulfillment of prophecy.
Celebrating it rather, sort of thing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a Christian goes there to preach the gospel to what he thinks are the last people, uncontacted people on Earth, and he gets killed. This seems to be a huge mistake, but of course they have turned it into a win for them. And I just want to play something I found on YouTube. This is from a channel called On Point Preparedness, and it's about the end times, and they always expect it to be coming any day now. And this seems to be their smoking gun. The name of it is 2018 Prophecy Fulfillment. Gospel reached the ends of the earth. So we'll just play a little clip of this now.
This news story, to me, is absolutely huge. At least to me. You know, some people disagree with my eschatological views, but I think you'll find this one very, very interesting as we discuss prophetic events of the end times and what may have been fulfilled. The man that you're seeing on the right hand of the screen, his name is John Allen Chow, and he was deeply inspired by God to visit this island called North Sentinel Island and declare Jesus to the tribes people on that island. Now, what is absolutely critical to know about this island is this. North Sentinel Island is home to the last uncontacted people on Earth. You'll find a lot of news stories where people have tried to go onto the island and communicate with them, but they are very hostile to outsiders. They will attack with bows and arrows and other devices, and so there is a hostility factor with why people haven't been able to contact or communicate with them, but also people don't want to go on the island for fear of giving them diseases. There's also reasons for trying to preserve or protect their culture. But again, North Sentinel Island is very well established and known as the last uncontacted place on the face of the earth. So now, why is this news story potentially prophetic, or at least I think highly prophetic? Let's look at Matthew 24:14. It says, "And this gospel of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come."
Okay, so as you can see, Neil, they are absolutely convinced, and I'm sure it's not just this YouTube channel, that this means because the gospel's been preached to the last people on earth, that Jesus has to come back now. So they're all packing their bags, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, first, before I get into the story, just want to say this is an absolute tragedy that this guy has died.
It is.
And it's so sad that he thought his faith would protect him. And obviously, faith is unproven by definition. And it didn't, nothing protected him. He's dead. So I don't want to...
Only 26 years old.
26. So that's a tragedy, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but we need to look further into the story.
You have been looking into the story, haven't you? You know quite a lot about this.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting story. I mean, one, on that article you just played, they said it's the last uncontacted tribe, so therefore it's fulfilling prophecy. Well, that's just not true. They've had very, very significant contact.
Yeah.
In fact, in 1880, they had very significant contact with a Christian missionary.
Which didn't go too well, I think.
But if they're... Let's go back to it first. Let's just point that out, the fact that if this is an end-time prophecy, it happened 140 years ago, not this week. So that bit of it is a little bit of nonsense. But yeah, it didn't go too well. So basically what's happened in the past, there's been other islands in this area in the past that had Neolithic tribes that have been basically living their own life with very little contact with the outside world. And some of them, when they did get contact, they had no immunity to Western or Asian diseases at all. And it wiped out whole islands of people because they didn't have any protection at all. So we're often in this story here about how the law says you can't go there because it's dangerous. And their law is there to go because it's dangerous, because they have been hostile before. But the main reason the law is there is to protect these people, because basically you would wipe out the island.
To protect the Sentinalese.
Yeah, exactly. And anyone going to that island knowing this law is basically going knowing they could be committing genocide to a whole people. And that sounds like a harsh word, but it's factually true. They could wipe out everyone on that island just by visiting it. So that's the main reason. You have to remember that. So unfortunately, the young man who died, he was the criminal. He was doing the criminal act in this thing. Even though Christians have called for the islanders to be brought to justice, he was the one doing the criminal act of risking genocide of a whole population. So you have to say that. But let's talk about why they maybe don't like having visitors to the island.
Because I'm sure there's some people who look at them and say, oh, what savages.
Yeah, and what's this all about? But it goes back to actually just protecting themselves. Because they have, as I said before, had contact previously. And they did have contact in 1880 with one Maurice Vidal Portman. Now, Mr. Portman was a Christian missionary who wanted to do exactly what this young man did, wanted to take the word of Christ to the island. But it seems that he was a bit of a disturbed individual. And he was obsessed with sex and genitals, which is not uncommon, but some of the things we see. But what he did, he went to the island, he abducted at least 4 people that we know of, 2 older people and two children, and he was obsessed by making them pose in homoerotic Greek compositions and taking pictures of them measuring their genitalia, touching, feeling them, sexually assaulting them, actually. And unfortunately, the older couple that he abducted, they died from a disease that they didn't have any immunity to once he took them off the island. The younger pair didn't. They managed to survive, and they were taken back to the island after he had finished all his experiments, all his sexual assaults, all his whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But they obviously told this story to the rest of the tribe. 2 people had died, been killed as far as they're aware by the invaders. They came back, told all these stories about how they were sexually assaulted. This island would have probably known about the other islands nearby that had had their populations wiped out as well. So their history is passed by word of mouth. They don't have any writings that is passed by word of mouth. And this is not much more than 2 generations, two lifespans.
So they passed
ago,
it down.
and they pass these stories down. So is it any wonder this island, the inhabitants are petrified and don't want any contact with outsiders? Their experience of contact with outsiders is seeing an island nearby have its whole population wiped out, is having their people abducted and killed, and sexually assaulted. So is it any wonder that they basically reacted in such a harsh way? And there's a reason this law was in place to protect them. And this guy, unfortunately, died committing a
Do you think he knew about
serious crime. Well, it's not the first time he's tried to get to the island, so, and he knows how difficult it is to get to the island. So apparently, I read it was like the 5th time he's tried to get to the island. And he would have been told by all the locals why.
If you think God's protecting him, you think, well, why would it take 5 times? You know, it's very strange.
It's a sad, tragic story, but it's really, really important that people know why we need to protect these tribes that have had very little contact with the outside world.
Wow. Yeah, it's a very, very sad story indeed, but I don't think we're going to hear the end of it, at least from the religious. I mean, already this on-point preparedness seem to think it's a fulfillment of prophecy and the end times is around the corner. Well, we'll see what they'll be saying this time next year. They'll probably still be saying it's around the corner, but who knows? But it's unfortunate they will take a tragedy like this and twist it to to suit their purposes.
Yeah, it's just really important that people know who the criminal was in this circumstance. He wasn't an innocent victim. He was risking the lives of the whole island by doing something he shouldn't be doing. Exactly. And I am really genuinely sorry that he died. But he shouldn't have put himself in that position. He shouldn't have put the islanders in that position.
And I feel very, very bad for his parents, his family. So that's a sad story to begin with, and not quite as sad, but certainly annoying, is this next story from Humanism.org UK. Humanists UK responded to the Times column on President-elect Alice Roberts. Now, we spoke about this, I think it was last week or the week before, that Alice Roberts, Professor Alice Roberts, who we know from a myriad of wonderful documentaries about paleoanthropology and archaeology, she has been appointed the president-elect of Humanist UK, which is great because we're big fans of hers. The article goes on to say, The Times has published a letter to the editor from Humanist UK Chief Executive Andrew Copson in response to a column by Robert Crampton. The article by Robert Crampton stated incorrect claims about the President-elect Alice Roberts and Humanists UK. Now, before we read Andrew Copson's letter, and by the way, if anyone wants to see our interview, both Neil and I have interviewed Andrew Copson last year, I think it was. Was it this year? No, it was last year. And you can find that on the channel. What actually happened was that this Robert Crampton actually said that Alice Roberts is not in favor of faith schools, which she is not. Why does she send her own children to them? And on the surface, you'd think, oh, that seems a bit hypocritical. But we'll read this letter. This is a response from Andrew Copson. Sir, Robert Crampton is wrong to say that Humanist UK lacked diligence in choosing our President-elect Alice Roberts. In fact, her situation is part of what makes her such an excellent choice. Her children attend a Church of England state school only because they were refused places at the local non-religious state schools, which she and her husband applied to and would have preferred Alice's situation, shared by hundreds of thousands of parents in our country, illustrates the hard and unfair choices faced by parents as a result of the fact that in England, a third of our state schools are religious, a proportion that is increasing. If all state schools were inclusive community institutions with no religious discrimination or partiality, as we have urged for over a century, this situation would not arise. The campaign to achieve this is one that Alice will lead, and her experience will be an advantage in this, not a hindrance. Judging by the 70% of your readers who agreed with her in your own online poll, she will have plenty of support. Andrew Copson, Chief Executive, Humanists UK. So it's funny how this Robert Crampton didn't do his research and find out that Alice Robert had actually tried to send her children to these schools and just couldn't manage it.
And it was, if you read the article, it was actually quite an attack piece. It was quite nasty. And Peter Hitchens has done a similar article recently as well. Very vitriolic, very attacking, and it seems to be a trend because I read those as a non-believer and as a humanist, and I think to myself, those articles, if anyone wrote an article that nasty about any other group of people, that there would be uproar, whether it be for racism, bigotry or whatever, but we seem to be easy targets.
Because it's humanist/atheists, you know, it's like, well...
Yeah, it's certainly not a level playing field, that's for sure. We seem to be, it's okay to denigrate us every turn.
Yes, because we have no morals.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems to be a concerted campaign as well, because there was another story came out, and it wasn't in any of the papers, this was just from Facebook.
That's right, on Facebook, that's right.
So basically, the Humanist UK, they do a fundraiser every year to raise enough money to pay for the wages for someone to campaign to end religious interference in state schools in the UK, and it's a policy that the vast majority of Brits want. Even a lot of religious people would like religion taken to be a secular thing, and because religion should be a personal choice, as the story of Jesus says many times.
Yeah.
But they've basically, what's been happening, Christians have been getting emails telling them to target this campaign as hate speech and asking them to contact Just Giving to get the account closed down, when this is a perfectly legitimate campaign. It's not hate speech in any way. It's not saying anyone can't practice their religion. I think it's just saying it shouldn't be in schools. So there seems to be some, I don't know why they're getting so angsty this year, because it's not happened in the past, but there seems to be a coordinated effort now by the evangelical Christians in the UK to really target humanist.org. I guess you can say it's a measure of how successful we're being.
I think some Christians just don't like the idea of humanists giving anything to anyone generously, or supporting anyone for that matter.
Yeah, because if you look at the work Humanist UK do, it's all about equality, it's all about helping people.
It's not for the greater glory of any god, which I think they can't, a lot of them, not saying all of them, a lot of them cannot get their heads around that. How can you not do it for a greater purpose?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's a lot of it. But the greater purpose is the purpose that you're giving to, isn't it?
But this just shocked me, because I'd never actually seen a concerted effort like this by Christians in the UK. I've witnessed it in America sometimes, but this is the first time in the UK such a organised campaign to try to remove the humanist voice from the public sphere has been so blatantly obvious. And
will, as you say, probably have the opposite effect now.
Yeah, I hope so. So if you if you want to help humanists with their campaigning against religion in state schools, there is a Just Giving page. Just look at Just Giving No Faith Schools.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's a story we keep an eye on, because I'm pretty sure this is going to develop, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get more vitriolic.
Well, watch the space, and if that does happen, we're going to have it right back on the show. We're going to tackle that. Something else which we have tackled before, and are going to continue to do so, is this problem of the gay conversion camps, the behavioral modification camps, conversion therapy, where they take a troubled teen or gay teen and send them somewhere where they can be brainwashed, they can be paddled to, to a point where, they've changed, they think that they've changed them into something else. So the new film coming out is called Boy Erased, and this has actually been directed by Joel Edgerton, the actor. And I found an article here from WUWM, which is a Wisconsin-based radio show. And the article says Joel Edgerton's Boy Erased tackles conversion therapy, family, and hope. The film Boy Erased tells the story of Jared Emmons, the son of a Baptist preacher who is sent to a church-supported gay conversion program after being outed to his parents his freshman year of college. The film is based on Jared Conley's memoir of the same name about his own experience. This film, Boy Erased, it's a biographical drama. It's based on his memoir of the same name. And we've got a little clip here of Joel Edgerton, who's talking about why he took on this role.
Now, what inspired you to take on this project? I imagine you knew of the book, but at any point during the filmmaking process, did you imagine that a gay director might have handled it differently?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I think any director would have handled it differently, many better than me and many worse than me, I'm not sure, but I actually was reticent to make the film as not identifying as a member of the LGBTQ community. What I did know when I read the book was there was such a hopeful aspect to the story, that someone needed to make the movie. And as a producer, I started researching and doing all that stuff. And when there was no one else really knocking down Garrett's door, I just started creatively getting involved by writing the screenplay. And then it just snowballed, and I realized that maybe, one of my qualifications was just how passionately obsessed with his story I was. But I had him as a partner, and I had his respect, and I had his seal of approval every step of the way, and shared him in the process. So, I will always be curious to know how any different director handles a project, but I'm proud that I've been involved. I'm proud of what it's become and what it stands to do. So, yeah.
Well, you did absolutely brilliant work.
Thank you.
The article goes on to say nearly 700,000 people between the ages of 18 and 59 in the US have undergone conversion therapy, such as the boot camp portrayed in Boy Erased, at some point in their lives, according to a recent report from Williams Institute at the University of California, Los Angeles. Now we have a quote here from film contributor Ryan J. The emotional and physical damage, psychological damage that is happening to these children is not happening in the past, it is happening right now. In addition to being an important movie, we're talking about some pretty big, horrifying topics here that are destroying people's lives. It's still an incredibly entertaining movie. And the article finishes with saying, although Boy Erased depicts one perspective of a harmful experience for Jared, the film is careful not to judge any character or institution in particular. And this is something we've looked at on Talk Beliefs before. I've interviewed quite a few people who now grown up who were sent by their parents usually to these conversion camps, not just because the parents were upset with their child being gay, because the teenager was acting like a teenager.
Yeah.
Acting out, going out with friends, dating somebody they didn't like, being, moody, whatever. And they think they're not behaving quite like a good little Christian the way I want. And so they send them off. Sometimes they have them kidnapped. See the film Kidnapped for Christ. And they end up in these places, not necessarily in the United States, in one case down in Dominican Republic, where they can't easily escape. And it's like a boot camp. And this will be very similar to a recent film, The Miseducation of Cameron Post, which we reviewed, where someone is sent to one of these specific gay conversion camps. And there's a lot of this around at the moment. So,
yeah, and at these camps there's a lot of abuse goes on, both physical and mental. And we won't stop talking about this issue and raising awareness about this issue until it is illegal to have these camps.
That's it. They need to be shut down.
Across all states, across all countries, because it's abuse. And basically the people doing this, now once it's made illegal, which it is starting to be made illegal in some states, and some countries are making it illegal, we need to see people going to jail for this, because it is abuse of the highest order.
It would be difficult in the states at the moment. I know there are 13 states where it's illegal, but you have Mike Pence, who has come out, publicly saying he's all in favor for these.
Yeah. Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me.
No.
they're just tear gassing kids on the Mexican border. Does it surprise you that they don't mind gay teenagers getting beaten and mentally tortured? It doesn't surprise me at all.
So we have two films, almost one after the other, the Chloe Moretz film and now this film here, about virtually the same subject. And there have, I think, been others in the past, but now it seems to be building up a bit of a momentum. So hopefully awareness is being raised that these, like it says here in the article, it's not something that exists in the past. It's still
it's going
draconian as it sounds. It's still going on.
And this is the problem. And a lot of people do believe that a lot of these stories about abuse, child abuse, whether it be in the Catholic Church or the JWs or this sort of gay conversion therapy, they think it's something that used to happen and doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, with nuns in the 1800s or something.
We passed. No, it's still going on right now. And it needs tackling. It needs people to go to jail. It needs organisations to be held responsible. And until we get to that stage, I will not stop talking about this.
And there are places you can look up online. SIA, S-I-A, is one website, sia.now, and they're trying to get them shut down. It's really difficult when you get into the legal ramifications of it all. But I think it's something that it is achievable eventually. In the long run. And hopefully in the short run.
Yeah, it all seems to come back to the point that minors, we seem to be, in many people's mind, okay to hit them and mentally torture them, and because they're their property, sort of thing. They seem to be the only group of people, minors, that in the world we still, as a group, not individually obviously, find it acceptable to commit crimes on. So
my child isn't acting like this, so I will send him or her there. Well, they will force him or her to act like this.
Now, I don't blame people who don't know the consequences of this. There are lots of people who are ignorant of the fact that actually even the slightest smack of a child in a child's brain is actually computed exactly the same as a hard smack. They can't tell the difference. The trauma in their brain is exactly the same. So you may think you've just given your kid a slight little tap to show it some correcting behaviour, but in its brain it is computing that as you are beating it, and it has long-lasting traumatic effects. And if anyone says it didn't do me any harm, I would say the fact that you used that statement proves what harm it did to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So the science is in now on this, and it's developing and all moving in one direction, saying we really shouldn't be doing this. And the sooner it becomes laws around the world that we can stop this, the better. And it's going to be for kids. They're going to grow up with less emotional trauma that they have to deal with later in life. So that's another reason we should be doing it.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to look at the playlist, which I've done, which is called Religious Boot Camps, I've interviewed 5 or 6 people now, including one of the house parents who used to work at one of these places and who left because she realized the regime there was wrong. It was not for her. I would encourage anyone to go and look at that playlist, and also look at the links below each one of those, because you'll find out what you can do about these institutions.
And you're getting so many more people as well contacting you. So
they're contacting me now that they know I'm doing this. Yeah, if you have been in one of these places, and you want to speak out, we can do a Google Hangouts. We could do an audio only if you want. You don't have to have your name or your face revealed. And we can work something out.
I can see a documentary maybe appearing in the future over this.
Well, you never know what might be in the works, Neil. So watch this space. Thank you so much again, Neil, for joining me, and I will see you next week.